Okay, in this deck profile, we'll be doing a Trickster deck list. So I know I haven't been doing too many Tricksters. Trickster's a little bit trickier to work with. There are a lot of the most common deck that's used with Trickster is pink blue burn. So in this deck, we're still running pink blue, but I tried to get away from the burn decks because there's a lot of different like variants out there, and then you could probably see those videos or those like lists probably online. So I just wanted to build something that's slightly different from those. But again, making use of Trickster's ability of when you're dealt 2 damage during your opponent's turn, you can discard one of your CNTs that cost 2 or less, and then you get to use its CNT ability. So we're using a few cards that takes advantage of that. One of the downsides to Trickster is that you can't like reshuffle your CNTs back into your deck because otherwise they get removed. But we are going to be recurring our CNTs to our hand so that way we can reuse them when we get hit. So the first card we have is two major garrisons. One thing is that Trickster is again a 2 energy ruler, but with garrison, he does have a discount that lets us play him for 2 to play him, as long as we remove 2 military cards. And again, most of our deck will be military, but we're playing it so that way when we play him, we can actually get a G&G armament factory, which increases all of our effect damage by 1. So we're not necessarily running a direct burn damage, but we're running more of a controlling your opponent's board type of deck. So we're only running 2 because again, normally we don't really need it as much. But again, it can be helpful if we get it like early. For our 2 legends, we're running 1 Masashi and then was 1 Captain Liberty. Because we are running pink in this deck, we have some cards that can let us swap out our damage for like Captain Liberty. And then Masashi is just a very good card that we can use for his ability because it's similar to like, it's the exact same thing as Captain OMG. And again, he has 3 strike and just a very good card for 2, so it's easier to play in this deck. Next we have 2 Dash Jordans. This one, so its CNT ability is Giant Killing, which is skill level 3, so we could use this for that ability, or if we really need to, we can use it to just deal 3 damage, but we are again playing Armament Factory, so it can actually become like 4 damage, 5 damage, all the way up to 7 if we have like maximum all 4 G&G armaments out. Next we're running 4 valtross. So this card is very good in this deck because again we are running G&G armament, so it deals more damage so we can control the opponent's board, as well as it can be used at instant speed, and we don't really use our DRs for pretty much anything else. So this takes full use of all of our DRs, and with having 14 HP, it means that we have a lot of access to damage that we can use to flip face down and then use it to deal with our opponent's units. Next we are running 4 Private Daredevil Rhino. So this is one of the cards that will let us recycle one of our CNTs, as well as in general it recycles firepower. So one of our CNTs is a firepower, as well as we do have a normal card that is also a firepower as well that you can bring back with Rhino. So when it comes into play or when it touchdowns, you can choose a firepower card of level 1 or less, and then you can put it from your graveyard into your hand. So this lets us reuse the CNT for the CNT firepower with our Trickster ruler so that we can use its CNT ability. Next we have 2 nosferatu. It's a military that we could use for like garrison to bring it out for cheaper, but this card has an undying where you can pay 1 resource or just pay the resource cost to play him from your graveyard. In case we are running out of units, but it can also, and because we do cycle through our damage, or we have ways to take cards out of our damage, having this is not that bad, similar to like with Captain Liberty, where we can use it to recur it, so that way we don't have to constantly use up all of our cards. Next we have 4 bullseye. So this one again can be used as a direct damage card, or it can be used to deal damage to enemy units, and with G&G Armament Factory, the damage to units can be increased. But it's also a level 0 military, which will actually be very important for one of our events. And then the last 4 units, we have 4 Spartan Panzer Marines. So this just lets us untap one of our energies when we play it. So sometimes we'll be playing, where we're playing a lot of 2 costs, and then which means we tap out fully and then play this as our second summon, untap 1 energy, and then we have that 1 energy to play with. If we need to use events, or if you want to use like Dash Jordan, for those type of cards. It also lets us play some of our level 1s and then play into our level 2s with this card, so that way we can, play multiple cards per turn. And then again, we have 4 GNG armaments. So this one's pretty self-explanatory, because again, we can search it with garson, as well as it also increases all of our base damage to enemy units. Then we have 4 Wild Fury. So this is one of the main firepowers we can return with Rhino, as well as, again, its CNT is different from its actual ability. So its actual ability only deals 3 damage to a unit, whereas its CNT deals 5 damage. So again, with the Wizard Ruler, if you get these in your hand, it's fine because you can just pitch it and still do the 5 damage. So it's very good for clearing out, some of those bigger threats. Even if your opponent's already attacked with it, it's good because it can either, you can help use it to clear the center field, so that we can just attack your opponent in the center. You don't have to worry about using an attack to clear that out. And then we're running the 2 Pats. So mostly you could use it for its draw ability when you pitch it for Wizard. But you could also use it to replenish your hand, because again, we sometimes run out of cards fairly quickly. Because when we use the Wizard ability, we're actually losing cards. We don't replace it, but we can use its second ability to draw more cards when we run low, or if you're playing against Highlander or Legion, where they have 20 CNTs, you could use it for its first ability, and try to get lucky and hit some of those. We are running 2 Well of Ids, so this is one of the cards that lets us choose 2 cards in our damage and then essentially swap it out with some of the other cards. So this helps us get our Captain Liberties or our Nosferatu soldiers out of our damage, and we can reuse it, as well as it also lets us essentially heal out DR cards that we might do for valtross, where we turn them face down. Next we have 4 Space Cave. So again, if we pitch this for our ruler's ability, we can essentially rest either our opponent's ruler, or we can rest one of their bigger units. So we don't necessarily need to just set it to use it for its actual ability. We can actually just use it for its CNT as kind of an action or an instant. Next we have 4 Tractor Beams. So this is bring back a level 0 from our graveyard and then put it into our hand, or we can special summon it. For this deck, what we're going to be putting into our hand, because our only 2 level 0s is the Buckeye as well as the Panzer Marines. So we're using that to replay them. So that's why we also can discard or take these out of damage with Well of Id, and then get them back with Tractor Beam. And it is important to note that Tractor Beam is a military card itself, so we can remove it to pay for the cost reduction for Major Garson. So just something that I didn't actually think about, it being a military trait, because again, this came out in set 1. So sometimes the traits don't make much difference later on. They were running 4 the Invisible Hand, so this lets us essentially just untap 2 energy. We can only use 1 of these per turn, but again, it lets us untap essentially all of our resources, since we only have 2. But again, it lets us play multiple cards per turn. And the last card we're running is 2 Suppressive Fire, which is a military firepower. Again, we can bring this back with Rhino if we need to, and with GNG Armor, we can make its damage more than just the basic 2. But with that, that's the end of this deck profile for Trickster. And again, the deck list will be in the description below. And then if there are other decks or archetypes you would like to see, you guys can put it in the comment section below, and then I'll do my best to try to work out a deck list if possible. But with that, thank you for watching, and then I will see you guys in the next one.